Employees at an escape room, what was the weirdest things you've witnessed through the cameras? In one of our rooms, we have an actor pose as a spy, and the people in the room had to solve a case to figure out who the traitor was. After they finished the puzzles, it turns out the traitor was actually the spy the actor was playing. The spy then pulls an obviously prop gun, orange tip and whatnot, and the group has to defuse a fake bomb. One of the groups that did this room was a police squad that was doing this to Bond. When the actor pulled the fake gun and said some cheesy lines, the actor was promptly tackled and restrained until the cops realized it was all a game. For some reason people like to put the flashlight in their mouth when they know they aren't the only ones who have used them. Some people put them between their legs, in the crack of their ass as a joke, and not to mention just roll around the ground a majority of the time. So there was this group of 5 or 6 teenagers in this one room. And at some point when they open a secret door the lights go out making it almost pitch black in there. Now the cameras we look through obviously changed to using IR light, and I immediately see 2 of them go in a corner and start making out. So yeah, pretty weird having to see that while their friends, less than 2 meters away, be oblivious to what their friends were wasting their time on. Holy shit, those were some of my friends. Wait, what, really? Yeah, I had some friends like that too. They constantly did it too with no shame and in front of anyone. One couple couldn't agree on how to solve their puzzles and broke up inside the room. Another couple had the guy surprise the girl with a proposal. Another couple got a horror-themed escape room and just sat on the floor and cuddled. They didn't look scared. They didn't bother to solve anything either. They just cuddled with all the creepy props and sound effects surrounding them. I guess they couldn't find a creepy motel to cuddle in. A couple broke up in the escape room. I then gave them loads of hints so they could get out ASAP. Maybe they fooled you. Who breaks up in an escape room? The one who walked in and said, "This room reminds me of our relationship. By the end of the hour we'll be done with it." That's funny, I figured you'd be done in under a minute like usual. This is not really a weird thing, but more a cute one. One day a dude called and told us he was proposing to his girlfriend and that they were both huge fans of escape rooms. So my boss and came up with a cool idea how we could change our escape room to make it more romantic, and that at the end of the escape they wouldn't find the key of the room but the ring and a bottle of champagne. We also told the dude the solutions of some of the puzzles to make sure they would actually come to the end of the room. It was the cutest thing I have ever seen. The way these two worked together in the room and how excited the dude was. When they found the ring and the champagne at the end and he asked to marry her, they were both in tears, so were my boss and I. She said yes. After that they stayed with us for a bit before heading their own way. It is still one of my favorite evenings and one of the reasons I love my newfound job so much. You have to agree to marry me so we can escape the room. Someone cleared all the boxes and locks off of a table in the corner, laid down on it, and went to sleep until the group escaped. Reminds me of my group projects in college. We give people a box for them to bring in, so they can store their belongings while they play. One time, about halfway in, an inquisitive older man started going through their own stuff. He pulled out a purse and shouts, guys, I found some. This is our stuff, isn't it?" It was hilarious. I had the exact opposite experience. I was playing an escape room and my group all ignored an iPad that was sitting on a table because we all assumed it belonged to one of us. Like most rooms, we have cameras all throughout the game so we can keep any eye on players, give hints based on what puzzle they're on, and watch out for any shenanigans. So ours is a prison-themed escape. At one point there are 3 cells that need to be opened in order. One of them has a live actor in it that messes with you the entire time, even after you rescue him. Anyway, each cell is pretty much the same, with a toilet, shelf, and a few other items. One guy was pretty drunk and repeatedly put bones and other shit in his pants to get a laugh out of his teammates, but they stopped paying attention to him while trying to actually make their escape. He must have gotten bored being so drunk and not caring about the escape room. He leaves the main group and heads back to his prison cell area. I'm watching on the cameras and see he's not with the rest of the group, so I start clicking around trying to find him. Sure enough, he's in a jail cell hovering over a toilet, taking a piss. There's no plumbing, they're definitely just props. We shut their game down on the spot. His group was not happy with him at all. After they left, I had the pleasure of soaking up his piss with a mop little by little, and it was after that night we added the anyone visibly intoxicated will not be allowed to participate rule. I went to a place with my family and, while we went into our room, we saw some employees working on fixing another room. Apparently some group before ours decided the only way out was to shoulder charge the door, which wasn't all that strong, and ripped the entire thing out of the frame. I guess they technically succeeded. They bill customer for damages in most cases. Whoever did it was all brawn, no brain. There was a room with a bed in it. Instead of continuing to follow the clues, 2 guests proceeded to put themselves to bed and then take a nap for half the time. They weren't hurting anything, so I let it happen. Before they left, they made the bed and tucked 2 of our skeletons inside. I feel like that would be me and my boyfriend. He is tired all the time, and I work crazy hours and kind of drag him along my time schedule. It was probably one of the best naps those 2 got, because in my head I'm assuming they were having a long overdue date night away from their kids, and the temptation to have an hour to sleep unfettered was too great. My mother and her friends went to an escape room one night, and while they were solving the room, one of them elected to just fiddle around with the final lock on the door, which was a 4-digit code, and miraculously unlocked it and walked out. Our room had a big metal safe. One guy who played in that room just picked up and carried the safe around the entire time. He was just playing it safe. Someone dug through 6 tons of sand on the floor to follow a live electrical cable, which she then tried to chew through. Edit. This was after being told multiple times there were no clues under the sand. What kind of stupid do you have to be to act like a squirrel? Maybe she really liked the flavor of electrical cable. One time the guests skipped every clue and happened onto the final solution to escape the room in the first 5 minutes. As I was heading towards the exit of the room to offer them a steep discount for completing the room on record time and seeing if they wanted to try another room, I overheard the guests starting to unravel the mystery backward from the end point. Seeing them sound so excited and into the mystery, I walked back to my station and saw them solve every puzzle backward in record time. After they got out, we shared some laughs over what happened, then traded a free coupon for their next visit if they told me how they unraveled everything, so we can run it as a new scenario. The story that comes to mind is when a group of Swedish construction workers genuinely thought the solution to the puzzle was to lift the door off its hinges. Although a more common experience was explaining to customers that the games aren't as fun when intoxicated, and then have them complain that the game was way too hard. That stopped when we started adding a histogram of every player's score on the souvenir photos, and their embarrassing times were way longer than average. I was in an escape room with some friends and a bunch of strangers. The premise of the room is that you've been kidnapped by a serial killer and you've got to get yourself out of his basement before he comes back. So it's super creepy and gross. A few clues in, we find the key to a 7-feet-tall locker. One of the guys I don't know goes to open it. I'm standing right behind him. He unlocks it, and just as he reaches for the handle, the door starts to open from the inside. We were so in the moment, he and I just slammed the damn thing shut and hold it with our combined weight. We're all asking each other what to do, and there comes a polite knocking from inside the locker. We're all jumpy as heck, but we finally decide to let whoever is in there out. It was the killer, and he was supposed to just jump scare the crap out of everyone and run out of the room. After we all escaped, he told us that had never happened before. He was just standing in the locker trying to figure out what to do. So funny afterward, but it genuinely scared the crap out of me when it happened. Generally nothing too crazy. There was a drunk group that came in, and 2 of them spent half the time making out on the floor. No clothes came off, and they weren't breaking anything, so I just let them be. Best escape room story I ever heard was my friend flying home for Thanksgiving while his sister had persuaded their parents to try out an escape room together. They arranged it with the staff, so my friend was waiting his parents in the second room. Not that crazy, but a fun story. This is not super relevant to the question, but a few years ago I went to an escape room to meet a guy from Tinder for the first time. He had paid for the session online and told me to get there at 7. He just didn't show up. I ended up completing the escape room with one of the employees there, because she felt bad for me and the session was already booked. Wait. Is my date at the end of this? Staff member, sorry, no spoilers. Oh, that's pretty cool. 48 minutes later. 3 and 5 and 1. Open. Solved. So where is he? Yeah. No. He didn't show. Surprise. Surprise. The employee was your date from Tinder. It wasn't a match. Honestly, possible they were a catfish and hoped they could work something out on the spot. We had a group that, within about 30 seconds, worked out the code because one of the guys figured out a clue from the first 2 sentences from the video. They were pissed off. I'd be too. Spent money on a fun thing and you did the whole thing in 30 seconds. Never pay for sex, my friend. The group of guests managed to pull an entire twin bed, mattress, frame and all, through a thin passageway and into the final room through the secret door. They thought it would be part of the puzzle. It was not. I can't explain why this is so funny to me. It just is. Just the thought of it has me losing it. It became my go-to story to tell people after they exited the room when they would apologize for making a mess. But the actual worst thing that happened, multiple times, is there's a locked drawer full of a few thousand keys, a couple marked red. At least once a month, the people would pull it out, and throw them all over the floor. I worked at one. As the host of the room, my job was to make sure the guests were on the right track and being safe. As an actor, I also had the job of immersing people in the room's environment. I mapped out a Christmas-themed room where the room host basically acted like Buddy the Elf, and the plot of the room revolved around escaping from Santa's office. There was a key on the Christmas tree, taped to a candy cane. The way we hid it, it was one of those things where you didn't see it at first, but once you did you couldn't unsee it. Some groups found it quickly, while others never did without help. If your group was pleasant, but struggling, I usually sang about candy canes until you caught on. If you really weren't getting it, I'd make a show out of gasping for air and singing it in one breath. If your group sucked, mean, obnoxiously drunk, and etc., then you'd get a fun fact about Santa. He can simply glance at any Christmas tree and tell you how many needles there are. I then watch the jerks count needles on a pine branch. The highest number counted was somewhere over 300. At that point they'd ask, how is this a clue? I'd say, clue? It's just a hobby. Oh look, a candy cane. And start singing about them. Do you have similar stories from escape rooms? Leave a comment. And subscribe to this channel if you want to see more same videos.